You're listening to another edition of the Full Court Press on 1069 The Fan with Eric Franson and AJ Salveson. To get the latest content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Don't forget the Full Court Press airs Monday through Friday on 1069 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, and you can stream the show on 1069thefan.com. Joining us here on the Full Court Press, he is the Utah Jazz beat writer from The Athletic, does terrific work. In fact, wrote a great article on Rudy's and Donovan's relationship. If it's repaired or how it can be repaired and such. Tony, my man, thanks for joining us.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I think you ask us how are we. We're okay, but we're not the ones who sat inside a Chesapeake Arena for I don't know how late at night and through like one of the most craziest situations I've ever heard beat writers have to sit through. I know you've had to recount the experience probably 1,001 times. I'm going to ask you to do it one more time, though, for us.
Anything for you guys. It was crazy. It was surreal. It was one of those things where, your instincts are to be a reporter and do your job. But at the same time, you're worried about your overall personal health. The members of the traveling media, we just had to be patient. And we were in constant communication with the NBA. We were in contact with the Jazz. I think the key context is nobody knew what was going on, so it was just kind of like everybody was just trying to figure out what was going on the fly. We finally got tested. The whole thing took about 6 hours. The entire experience from when the game got canceled to when we walked out of the arena. It's funny that you asked me this question because last Wednesday seems like 6 months ago, and it was only 7 days ago, and so much has happened since then, including being in a major earthquake this morning. So. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting week for sure.
Well, as you said, it's been a very interesting year in the NBA with what happened in China, the Daryl Morey tweet and the firestorm that created, Kobe Bryant's tragic passing, and now this. I mean, this is certainly going to go down as one of the most bizarre NBA seasons and things outside of what actually happens on the court of play. But how does this now affect where things are going to be for the NBA? I mean, we just find out just the other day that 4 New Jersey Nets players, there you go again, with the old habits, Brooklyn Nets players tested positive for the coronavirus. Do you see that the NBA calendar is really going to be starting again when they say it is, or does it now look like it may even be pushed back further?
No, I think the answer to that question is safely that nobody knows.
Let's see, Tony, we're kind of having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you can get potentially a better spot.
Is that better?
There we go.
Sorry about that. I think the biggest answer to that question is that nobody knows, right? Like, I think, we're in a position right now to where the coronavirus health situation is going to get worse before it gets better. I think we're in a position where we have to consistently reassess, just constantly. So we have to reassess in 2 weeks, and then reassess in 4 weeks, and then 6 weeks, and so on, because, I don't think that the NBA or any major league could come back until this thing kind of flatlines a little bit, and we don't know when that's going to be. It could be easy to say, well, we could get a vaccine, and I do believe that we can eventually develop a vaccine, but I think that's 12 to 14 months down the road. I know that the league and its owners, because of so much money at stake from so many different places, I know that there's hope that we can continue over the summer and get back to where we left off. But that's not anywhere near a guarantee. And I can honestly see a scenario where there's no NBA, and I can see a scenario where there's no NBA for the rest of the season, coupled with there's a delay to the start of next season. I mean, I think we have to realize how serious we're in with the coronavirus. This is something that I think the vast majority of Americans are going to be exposed to before we're finished.
I want you to put on your commissioner hat for just a moment. If and when this NBA season does resume, would you rather finish out the 18 regular season games, or do you just skip it, go straight to postseason, and move on?
I have two answers to the question.
Sure.
I would rather play the 18 regular season games that are remaining, because if you go straight to the playoffs after guys haven't been playing, guys have been on playing Call of Duty for a month and a half, you're going to have some bad basketball, and you're going to expose guys to injury. But I think that best case scenario is if we come back mid to late June, or if we come back early July, you're just going to have to go straight to playoffs, because it takes 2 months for the playoffs to be played. So if you come back mid-June, let's say you come back June 15th, you're still playing games. You're still playing games on August 8th, most likely. Okay? Around August 11th, that's when your schedule comes out for the new year. What do you do with the draft? What do you do with free agency? You could probably go with no summer league, so you could cancel that. What about the pre-draft process? What about the beauty of the NBA is that its regular season has become almost as intriguing and almost as busy in some spots as the regular season. Its off season has become almost as intriguing as the regular season. So there's a lot to having an NBA off season. So if you're still playing games on August 8th, you most likely have to delay the start of the 2020-2021 season, and whether you play 82 games or whether you play a shortened season there, you're going to have decisions to make there. So, I almost think that when you come back, you have to just come back and go straight to the playoffs and try to finish up as quickly as you can.
Again, we're talking to Tony Jones, beat writer for the Utah Jazz, for The Athletic. Always does great work. And one of the pieces that you've done here recently was examining the current relationship between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Initial reports based on some of their social media posts, it looked like that maybe Donovan Mitchell was harboring some ill will towards Rudy Gobert and maybe some of his careless actions. We were uncertain if that was. We were looking into things, if other people were trying to blow this up more than it really is. But based on some of the things that you've looked into, saying like there may be something there.
Yeah, well, there's definitely something there. So it's just a matter of whether they can work through it and sit down and cooler heads can prevail. I tend to think yes. I don't think their issues are serious enough to where we get to a point where it's a point of no return. I do think that there's some hard feelings towards Rudy, not just from Donovan, but from others in the locker room. But I think Rudy understands that. He made a mistake on Monday. I don't think he made a mistake in terms of, touching reporters' microphones. That didn't give anybody the coronavirus. It was just the principality and the message that it sent of just kind of being callous towards the whole thing. That was what was the bad look. But I think that Rudy's been really vigilant and really good, since his positive diagnosis. He apologized publicly. He's trying to take a lead in coronavirus awareness. That's been really good. Obviously, he pledged a significant monetary commitment, to help against the coronavirus. That's been really good. So, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I just felt there's a minor aftershock coming.
Oh,
where I'm at right now. So, at the end of the day, I think, Rudy's done a lot to kind of atone for that misstep. And I think, just behind closed doors, I just think that Donovan and Rudy just have to have a conversation or some conversations. And I think the Jazz just need to just go ahead and figure out a way to put this behind them.
Tony, I know and I understand if you don't want to answer this question, but you being the professional reporter you are and so damn good at your job, were you a little bit or even at all miffed at the way Adrian Wojnarowski came out with his tweet about Donovan and Rudy and the Jazz players and just to open up the coronavirus situation?
Well, I have great respect for Adrian. I think he's the best in the business at what he does, and I think that's obvious. I do think that I wish he had worded that differently. But at the end of the day, you know what? I mean, every word that he said in the tweet turned out to be accurate. Especially, when, I went and did my own reporting. So, you can't get mad at a guy for being accurate.
Yeah.
It was brutal honesty. Now, where I think the unfortunate part from that tweet is, that, it just set off such a firestorm, to where Rudy got so beat up on social media that, I think that part wasn't fair to Rudy because, like I said before, he didn't give anybody the coronavirus by touching reporters' microphones. He didn't, to be honest, he didn't even expose anybody as a high risk. We were given a message from the Utah Health Department that any microphone that Rudy touched on Monday, those guys, that reporter of that microphone was considered low risk. So they didn't have to. At that point, nobody even had to self-quarantine. So Rudy didn't put anybody in jeopardy by touching microphones. So I think that, Twitter and social media acting like he was patient zero and acting like, the entire virus was because of him, that was really unfair. But, as Donovan's Good Morning America interview shows, Adrian was right in what he tweeted. He was accurate. So you can only get so mad at a guy when he's accurate, whether, you like the wording or not.
I got to ask you, I know it's off topic and off base, but how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I want to be off quarantine, but I still have 8 more days to go.
Oh.
So, I just, I would really love to when I do get off quarantine, I'm going to be very careful. I'm still going to spend the majority of my time at the house. I'm still going to, do my best to avoid large crowds. But man, I just want to just, get out of my room and hang out with my kids and hang out with my wife. And I can't do any of that right now for another 8 days. So that part is really tough. But, because I was directly exposed to Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, it's something that I just have to do.
You're talking to Tony Jones, beat writer for The Athletic, covers the Utah Jazz. And with some of the things going on in the NBA, where let's step away from what the future might hold with when play might resume or everything like that. Let's look at where the Jazz were and the moment of the NBA was before that fateful Wednesday night. Was this team positioned to make a run in the Western Conference? They've had their ups and downs this season. They were looking like maybe they could start to get things back on track, but then there was still some uncertainty with how that Toronto game played out. Before all this went down, how would you have assessed the health and the future of the Utah Jazz in a playoff run?
Well, they were certainly in a position to make a run. I mean, they're in the fourth spot of the Western Conference. They were 41-23. Last Wednesday was a big game against Oklahoma City. So, I mean, they were certainly in position. The question is whether they could have defended enough to make a run, whether, they could have been cohesive enough on the floor to make a run. And those were big questions. But, they would have been in the middle of a pretty difficult schedule had things not got halted. There was Oklahoma City on Wednesday. They would have had the New Orleans Pelicans and Memphis Grizzlies over the weekend. They would have had a back-to-back against the Los Angeles Lakers. In fact, they would have been playing against the Los Angeles Lakers in Staples Center tonight. So, they would have certainly had their opportunity to prove that they could make a run, a real run, or, prove that they were just one of those teams that were really good, but kind of a notch below the real contenders. So it would have been interesting to see which way they would have gone. And I hope that we get a chance to see. I hope that we get a chance to see the remainder of the season for them.
I know you're a big fan from a media standpoint of Sam Merrill and the Mia Shketa. Sam Merrill's historic 3 nights in Vegas. I don't know if you got to see the game or even see highlights.
I watch my boy Sam. Don't get that twisted. That's my guy. I watched him.
Well, he's obviously a big fan of you, as he's putting it out on Twitter very much, a huge fan of you.
The most famous person to reach out to him after the shot.
How about that?
Listen, don't listen to that. I said that.
Hey,
I have no idea what he was talking about.
Hey, I got to ask you, you having your ear so close to the tracks in regards to the NBA, is there a chance that Sam can make the league?
Oh, yeah.
Is there teams involved, interested in him? Do you know? I mean, you don't have to give specifics, but do you feel like teams will be interested in him and playing in the NBA?
So,
I know you have to be careful.
This is, it's. I know that I will estimate that if let's say this was a regular, like we didn't have any stoppages or anything, right?
Yeah.
I believe that he would have had at least 20 workouts. 20 workouts with at least 20 NBA teams. I talked to I talked to one of my scouting sources. I'm going to put this out there, not with the Jazz, just to be clear. And I asked about Sam, and he told me that he has no doubt that Sam could play in the NBA offensively. Just the question is defensively, who can he guard and what can he guard? But after watching him this year, the thought is that he can certainly play in the league offensively. Now, Sam's issue is that he is, what is he? Is he 24 or is he 25?
He'll be 24 in 2 months.
Right. So that's Sam's issue. That's his issue, and that's one of his issues. And his second issue is, he's got to prove that he can guard at that level. I think he can play point guard for 15 minutes a night in the league and be a solid backup because he's so good off the dribble. He's so good in pick and roll. He can score in so many ways. He doesn't need the basketball to be effective. He can spot up and shoot. He could just do a lot of things. Just the question for him is, how does he guard his position?
Is that, I mean, even with that fact that he's guarded guys like Malachi, I mean, he guarded their best perimeter player on the defensive side while handling the majority of, I guess, possessions on the offensive side. He guarded guys like Malachi Flynn, the Harris kid from Nevada, and they still wonder, though?
I'm gonna tell you. Listen, I covered the WAC/Mountain West. I covered the NBA. It's unbelievable in the NBA how good these guys are. Like it's just like you watch it on TV and you say, "Yeah, these guys are really good." Watching these guys in person, like these guys are unbelievable. I'll give you an example. Kyle Collinsworth is an unbelievable basketball player, unreal, and he's a fringe NBA player. Like it's just really startling how good these guys are. So I mean, and that's not to say that Sam won't be able to come in and guard. I'm just saying I don't think Malachi Flynn's ever playing a possession in the NBA, and I think he's pretty good.
Okay.
But it'll be. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see. Like workouts would have been. So Sam is in such a unique position, and I'll say the same thing for Yoli Childs of BYU, because what if there are no pre-draft workouts? They've already canceled Portsmouth. They're probably gonna cancel the combine, the draft combine. So for people like Sam and Yoli, seniors who have to. Whose draft stock is probably going to be contingent on how they do in workouts and in the pre-draft process. There might not be a pre-draft process, so that's going to put them in a really unique spot, and it's going to be a real issue for both of those guys.
What about Nemish Queta? Do you think that he tested the NBA waters a year ago, decided to come back? Is he a future NBA talent?
I think he's looked at as a future NBA talent. I think, obviously he's got, he's very, very athletic for a big. He's a very good rim protector. I think that he's got to extend his range to where he can consistently knock down the perimeter shot. He's just got to keep getting better. His physical tools are there, but his game, he's just got to keep getting better. I think he's probably going to declare for the draft because from everything I heard, he really wanted to come out last year, but he was advised by multiple teams to stay in school. But he's just a guy that needs to keep working on his craft, keep working on his game. I think he should come out because I think that even if he doesn't get drafted, or if he gets drafted in the second round, somebody's going to give him a two-way. Somebody's going to keep him around for a year to where they can develop him. And I think that him, if he gets to the right team, to where they have a real good player development program, I think that'll give him a chance to stick.
Hey, final question for me, Tony. I got to ask you. Eric and I were discussing if there was one during this little break of sports, if there's one game you could go back and watch from, okay, I'll give you two options. You're going to do NBA or any sport from a classic game. What's the one game you would want to watch?
Would Georgetown be involved?
Probably. So I only get one game?
You get one game from ESPN or whoever to air it for you, and that's the one game you get to watch over and over again.
Okay. Okay, I can do this. Georgetown, North Carolina, 2007 regional final. I've
Ooh.
watched that one.
I've missed this one. I was gone during this time. What was this game about?
So that was when Georgetown went to the Final Four. That
Who was playing for Georgetown at the time?
that was Jeff Green and Roy Hibbert.
Oh, jeez.
And my next one, I'm gonna pick one more just
Go
because
ahead.
I'm the guest. The customer's always right.
You always get a +1. Yeah.
Golden State, Cleveland, Game 7, 2016.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
Is that the LeBron block? Hey, I gotta ask you, like, when you go back to the game, I was actually watching that game just the other day, and it still gives me chills. Like, that whole entire fourth quarter just gives me chills. And I'm the biggest homer for Michael Jordan. Always have been, always will be. But watching LeBron in that fourth quarter just spins your head sideways and makes you rethink things in that regard, doesn't it?
I mean, it didn't make me rethink things.
You're already on the train.
I was already on LeBron is as good as Michael Jordan train. Like he just needs a couple more titles to really stake a claim. But just LeBron just kind of dominating that game, and Kyrie obviously making the big shot. LeBron having a 30-point triple-double. Draymond Green almost having a 30-point triple-double. Cleveland coming back from double digits down. The block on Iguodala. Nobody could score in the final 3 minutes, and it wasn't because it was bad basketball. It was just because the defenses were both that good. It was one of the classic games in NBA history. So I would definitely watch that one.
But why over Jordan? Jordan was 6-0 in finals. I'm sorry, but I got to have this conversation with you live on air since I've got you. 6-0 in finals. Barkley, Stockton and Malone twice, Gary Payton, Magic Johnson, all are victims of this list. Why LeBron?
So I'll ask you two questions.
Please.
How many finals appearances did Jordan go into of those 6 where the Bulls were not the significantly better team?
Fair. I still think the Lakers.
0.
The Lakers in 90?
The Lakers in 90 had a hobble James Worthy. They had Magic Johnson, who was still good. But, like Terry Teagle was in that rotation. Vlade Divac was in the rotation. The Bulls were better. They were much better. They were much better than the entire league. So so my thing is, and this is beyond Mike, because obviously Mike is the best player. He deserves all the accolades, and we're taking like LeBron out. LeBron's the best player. He deserves all the accolades. How many finals of the 9 that LeBron's made that he's gone in where he's been the better team?
Oh, 0. Wait, well, I guess 3. Sorry. 3.
There's been a couple.
I would say 2.
Miami with the Heat.
Miami, Dallas in 11, and Miami, Oklahoma City in 12. I think the Spurs in 13 were the better team. They were slightly better. They were much better in 14. And then every other finals, like LeBron was the significant underdog. So
I would definitely agree with that.
So when you have, it's hard. It's hard to beat a team 4 to. This isn't the NCAA tournament. Like if you're the better team going into an NBA series, you're probably going to win that series because it's hard to beat a team 4 or 7 times when you're just not better than that team. So, now where I would ding LeBron is he lost one of his finals where he was definitely the better team. Like he was definitely the better team in 2011. They lost those finals. If you want to put Jordan over LeBron in one area, when Jordan was the better team, when Jordan had the better team, Jordan never lost. Now, when he didn't have the better team, he did lose. But that was always before the finals, so nobody ever talks about it.
But you could probably argue that Jordan also had better coaching.
Jordan always had better coaching. It's not even a question.
Yeah. Speaking of coaching,
Phil Jackson.
speaking of coaching, got a text that came in. Curious about your opinion about Ewing with the Georgetown. Is he the right guy?
I like him. I think he had a real setback this year where the entire program transferred out. But I mean, as a Georgetown fan, what I was proud of was that the remaining 5 guys that he had, those guys all played hard for him. Like they visibly played hard. And I think that he's a good recruiter. I think he's still learning his way as an in-game coach, but I think that he has a chance to I think he's going to give them a chance to turn it around. So I'm on board.
Tony, that's great stuff. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate you. You're the most famous person we've ever had on our show. So thank you.
If you guys don't listen, all I am is somebody who kills flies at Maverick Stadium once upon a time.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all
Tony
I
the
am.
Terminator.
I forgot about that story. I heard about that. Tony, such damn good stuff, man. Thank you so much. Very, very much. Greatly appreciate it. Stay safe and wish you the best.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, big guy. Take care.